Hello there, welcome back to Hollow Acres Homestead. My name is Stephanie. Today we're talking about beans and how to grow them from seed to plant, how and when to fertilize them, what to fertilize them with and when, and how and when to harvest your beans. So there are two types of bean plants, pole beans and bush beans. Bush beans are of course small bushy plants. Pole beans are bean plants that grow on long trailing vines. Pole beans do require some sort of structure. Bush beans typically don't, however, you can stake them up for them to grow up and not drop any of their beans into the soil. Pole beans are the indeterminate variety and prolific growers. They will keep growing and produce fruit for you all season long. Great choice for small places because you can grow them up and save some bed space, or you can grow them in pots. And a lot of options whenever it comes to pole beans. Bush beans are the determinate variety. They are small bushes. Most of what I have in this bed are bush beans, and they will only provide fruit for a short amount of time. So they do not grow all season. Typically you'll get a couple of harvests out of them and then they will stop producing the fruit but still keep producing the leaves. In order to get a continuous crop of your bush beans, plant new seeds every couple of weeks. That way you will be having beans for the entire season. Now, not all bush beans like the hotter weather of the summer, but with research you will be able to find the type of beans that grow well in your area and will handle your climate well. Beyond bush and pole beans, beans can be broken down into three more categories. There's snap beans, shelling beans, and dry beans. Your typical green bean is a snap bean. They're eaten whole with the whole pod and the beans. Snap beans should be 4 to 6 inches long whenever harvested and be crisp and pliable. Let's see. It just rained, so these have a lot of moisture in them. This really isn't a very good show for you. They're not supposed to bend like this. Also, whenever it comes to harvesting, don't harvest right after a rain. Let the soil dry some so they can get their snap back in them. There are so many varieties of the snap beans in different sizes and colors and even textures. Now, shelling beans are the beans that you would remove the outer shell of to get to the bean on the inside. Also, lima beans and soybeans can be left on the plant to dry for dry beans. Which brings me to the dry beans. Dry beans are beans that you allow to completely mature and dry on the plant until the inner bean is hard and dry. You just simply pop the beans out of the inside of it, store it in an airtight container, and those dry beans will last for years. Common dry beans are kidney beans, black beans, lima beans, soybeans. There are a lot more varieties out there if you're interested in growing beans. Research them, see, like I said, what grows well in your area. If you are interested in growing more bean plants, I will put a couple of links down in the description that will give you a good starting place as far as growing beans and seeing exactly what varieties it is that you are interested in growing. Now that we know the different types of beans, how do we grow them from seed? Let me first start by saying what I'm about to say is probably going to annoy some people, especially people who do grow beans. Typically you're supposed to inoculate your beans before you plant them and soak them for a couple of hours, no more than 24. But I don't do that. I sometimes will soak the beans. I did soak my edamame beans, but I didn't soak, these were all dry beans that I planted directly into the soil. Inoculating your beans prior to planting, it helps the plant to not develop certain bacteria that bean plants are prone to if they're not inoculated. I'm not going to go into full detail about inoculation. Frankly, I don't 100% understand it. I get the gist of it, and I just know that for me, it's an extra step that I did not take, and my bean plants are doing just fine. I will put a link in the description describing inoculation, what it is, all the good stuff, so if you're interested in that, it'll be there. Now, bean plants like well-draining, rich in compost soil. They're very easy to manage in raised beds. My entire garden is in raised beds though. Bean plants need to be planted in full sun, at least 6 to 8 hours. More if you have it, that's great. If you don't have at least 6 to 8 hours of full sun, morning sun, at least 4 hours, and the afternoon shade, it'll do just fine. I think my bed here gets about 5 hours, maybe 6 hours of direct sunlight, and then I'll get rays throughout the whole day since it's a forest back here and the sun does whatever it does. Now if you put fresh compost over your soil before you plant beans, you typically shouldn't have to fertilize your bean plants. Bean plants create their own nitrogen in the soil, so you don't want to add any extra nitrogen. If you do want to fertilize, you would do it probably after your first harvest or so. Everybody does it differently. Some people pinch off the first buds and then fertilize, and then they'll just continue growing. I have not fertilized my bean plants other than whenever I planted them in the rich compost. I think I may have put some vegetable granulars. I think I did that in all of the beds. I haven't seen a need to fertilize any of my beans though, so I have not. Typically you don't have to fertilize them, but some people do. Sometimes you see yellowing and things. Go away. I got off topic there. Your seeds will take about 4 to 10 days to germinate. Then they'll start growing up, and you will see your first buds, your first flowers, within the first 8 to 12 weeks. Sometimes it's sooner depending on sun and variables, you know. And again, do your research on exactly what bean it is that you're growing so that you know when to harvest it, how big it should be, how it should feel, if the beans are supposed to be plump, yada yada, so on and so forth. Well, that's it. You've seen how I grow my bean plants. I popped off one bean for you. This one, it's got hay on it now. Let's get a yellow one. Oh yeah. Yellow beans. Bean plants are really, really easy to grow. I think I only killed a couple of them. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. Please hit the like and subscribe button if this video was helpful to you at all. If you have any comments about anything, any questions, leave it in the comment section below and I would love to answer it. Again, thank you for stopping by. See you next time.